So namaskar all of you. So Odisha Civil Service 2023 मेंस एग्जाम रो जो ऑप्शनल टेस्ट सीरीज टेस्ट 1 आज हमर 4 जनवरी तो फर्स्ट टेस्ट आपनकर एई पर्टिकुलर सेशन रे मु फॉरेस्ट्री ऑप्शनल रो डिटेल्ड क्वेश्चंस उडा हम डिस्कस करबा टेस्ट 1 रो तार सिलेबस रोची इफेक्ट ऑफ लोकेलिटी फैक्टर्स फॉरेस्ट क्लासिफिकेशन एंड डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन पेपर 1 रो एटा पार्ट रोची and we will discuss the questions. तो एथरे पैटर्न कौन ना आपनकर फॉरेस्ट्री रे आपनको एमती डायरेक्टली 15 मार्क रो क्वेश्चन सेक्शन ए रे और डायरेक्टली 20 मार्क रो क्वेश्चन सेक्शन बी रे प्राय पड़ेनी तो सब बिट्स ताको डिवाइड करके पड़े त माने हमको पूरा पिन पॉइंटेड आंसर्स लिखिया पे पड़िबो किछि एथि बेसी एक्सप्लेनेशन इंट्रोडक्शन की कंक्लूजन बड़ बड़ दबार नहीं टू दी पॉइंट जति पचारची कहना मैक्सिमम क्वेश्चंस 5 into 3 पडुची सेक्शन ए रे 15 मार्क भितरे ओके 10 5 रो भी किस्टा पडुची 15 मार्क बहुत ही कम ओके और सेमती सेक्शन बी रे भी 20 मार्क आपनकर 7 7 6 एमती पडुची त माने से जति की पचारची सेति की लिखले हमें प्रॉपर्ली सारी परिबा ठीक अछि अनलाइक सम अदर ऑप्शनल्स जोटी की ट्रेडिशनल 15 मार्क और 20 मार्क क्वेश्चन गोटे 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 पडुची ओके सो लेट अस स्टार्ट देन क्वेश्चन 1 how does the variation in light intensity affect photosynthesis and growth in shade tolerant versus light demanding tree species? What are the physiological adaptations in trees to cope with extreme temperatures? And how do these adaptations influence species distribution? Bit C. How does frost impact seed germination and sapling survival in temperate forests? Question 2. To what extent does precipitation variability influence forest composition in arid versus tropical regions? Bit B. What role does dew formation play in sustaining vegetation in areas with limited precipitation? And how does it interact with soil moisture levels? Bit C. How do changes in atmospheric humidity levels affect transpiration rates and drought resistance in forest ecosystems? Question 3 bit A. What are the direct and indirect effects of strong winds on forest structures and tree morphology? How does altitude influence species richness and forest stratification in mountainous ecosystems? Bit C. What are the effects of aspect of microclimatic conditions and forest composition in hilly terrains? Question 4 question 2. How does topography affect water drainage and its subsequent impact on soil moisture availability for trees? Bit B. To what extent does geology determine forest distribution and productivity in regions with contrasting bedrock types? Bit C. What is the relationship between microclimate variations and the survival of understory vegetation in dense forests? Next, come to question 5. How does soil type influence root system architecture and nutrient absorption in forest ecosystems? How do herbivory pressures by large mammals shape forest regeneration and species composition? Bit C. What is the role of fungal symbiosis in enhancing nutrient uptake and growth in tree species under nutrient poor conditions? Question 6. How do invasive plant species alter competitive dynamics and forest biodiversity in native ecosystems? Bit B. What are the effects of human induced biotic factors such as logging and grazing on forest health and regeneration capacity? Bit C. How does the interaction between soil conditions and precipitation determine the success of afforestation projects? Question 7 bit A. What are the combined effects of altitude and wind exposure on forest line dynamics in alpine ecosystems? Bit B. How do physiographic and climatic factors jointly influence tree growth in coastal mangrove forests? Gifford Pinchot stated, the vast possibility of our great future will become realities only if we make ourselves responsible for that future. How does this perspective underline the importance of understanding locality factors in sustainable forest management? Question 8. Aldo Leopold remarked, a thing is right when it tends to preserve the integrity, stability, and beauty of the biotic community. How does this principle apply to interplay of climatic, physiographic, and biotic factors in forest ecosystem? Bit B. How can understanding the effect of topography and microclimate improve site selection for reforestation projects? Question 9. What strategies can mitigate the negative impact of wind and frost on economically important tree species in temperate zones? How does soil fertility interact with precipitation patterns to determine the success of fast-growing plantation species? Bit C. In what ways can biotic factors such as herbivory and fungal associations be leveraged to improve forest health and productivity? Then question 10. How can the interplay between altitude and aspect be optimized to enhance biodiversity in forest restoration projects? Bit B. What are the implications of increasing wind speeds due to climate change for forest stability and tree mortality? Question 11. A. How can a better understanding of humidity and soil conditions aid in combating desertification in semi-arid regions? Bit B. What role does geology play in determining carbon sequestration potential in forest ecosystem across different landscapes? Bit C. However, can the combined study of physiographic and biotic factors guide the development of agroforestry systems in degraded lands? Last question, bit A, question 12. What is the impact of changing precipitation patterns on soil erosion and soil productivity in sloped terrains? How do locality factors influence the resilience of forests to climate-induced stressors such as drought and heat waves? A bit C. In what ways can the study of microclimates improve the conservation of rare and endangered forest species? Okay. तापरे बिट बी एथरे 6टा क्वेश्चन देछि आपन 5टा करिवार अछि ईच क्वेश्चन 20 मार्क रो ओके हाउ डू क्लाइमेटिक एडाफिक एंड बायोटिक फैक्टर्स कलेक्टिवली फॉर्म द बेसिस फॉर फॉरेस्ट क्लासिफिकेशन इन इंडिया एंड ओडिशा? क्वेश्चन 14 व्हाट आर द स्पेसिफिक क्राइटेरिया यूज्ड टू डिलिनिएट फॉरेस्ट टाइप्स इन इंडिया एंड हाउ डू दे डिफर इन ग्लोबल फॉरेस्ट क्लासिफिकेशन सिस्टम? 6 मार्क रो क्वेश्चन हाउ डज डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन ऑफ ट्रॉपिकल एवरग्रीन एंड डेसिडुअस फॉरेस्ट इन इंडिया reflect variations in rainfall and temperature patterns? It has 7 marks. What are the unique features of Odisha's coastal mangrove forests and how do these ecosystems contribute to biodiversity conservation? Okay, then question 15. How do botanical areas such as Western Ghats and Eastern Himalayas influence distribution and diversity of forest types in India? 6 marks. What are the major threats to biodiversity in mangrove forests and how can community participation improve their preservation? 7 marks. How does the conservation of endemic species in biodiversity hotspots relate to forest classification and management practices? So this is also okay 7 mark question. Next come to question 16. Hugh Cleghorn stated that forests are lungs of our land. How does this perspective emphasize the role of forest classification in biodiversity conservation and ecosystem services? Dietrich Brandis remarked, trees are not just trees, they have life systems that sustain both man and nature. How does this view underline the importance of understanding forest types and their ecological significance? Question 17, bit A. What are the challenges in classifying mixed forest with overlapping characteristics and how does this affect forest management strategies? Question 17, bit B. how does the distribution of mangrove forest in Odisha differ from that in other states, and what are the implications of their conservation under changing climatic condition? Question 18. To what extent does the classification of forest types aid in prioritizing areas for biodiversity preservation in India? 10 marks. How can understanding the criteria for forest type delineation improve reforestation and afforestation activity initiatives in degraded landscapes? So, it apanakara 18 question 3 hours re you have to complete it. Okay. So, that is related to your first test of forestry. So I wish you all the best. जो माने फॉरेस्ट्री ऑप्शन लेके प्रिपेयर कर प्रिपेयर हार्ड कहीं आपनकर बहुत टू दी पॉइंट आंसर लिखियार सो 5 मार्क 7 मार्क ए टाइप रो क्वेश्चन पड़ियो राइट. सो बेस्ट विशेस. नमस्कार.